This morning on 97.1 FM, we have the delightful Chaneil Imhoff. Good morning, darling.
Good morning, Alison. That brownies ad always makes me hungry.
I know, right? you know what? Sometimes I think I wish it was just around the corner.
Right?
You know what I'm saying? How was your weekend and how are you this morning?
Well, my weekend was very packed, full of work this morning. Also, I'm energized. I feel new, fresh, and dynamic, just like the DNA.
Wow, don't she sound perky this morning? And talking of the DNA, it sounds like this morning I wasn't quite sure what we were going to be talking about, and I kind of feel that you and the group are reacting to the children's mandate for vaccination to be received. Well, it seems like a vaccination for an education in some quarters. Now, I know this has been amended to allow unvaccinated children to be tested for COVID-19, and they can continue, with internet, Google Classroom and stuff like that. What are your concerns within the DNA?
So, some of our concerns within the DNA are not just access, of course, because we know even prior to the vaccination mandate, when the children were at home, a lot of children did not have access to not only devices but also internet. Now, the minister would have sort of addressed that, but we tend to want to look at things in long, short, and medium term, and as well as from a more intersectional view. Now, what I mean by that is we have quite a few programs within our government schools, like the school meals program, you have counselors, etc. And when you deprive young people of these things, these basic services, based on a decision that they themselves are not able to make, we think that is grossly unfair to them.
And I mean, in the sense of gross unfairness, the United Nations and the, this morning, even listening to Zoe's show on Morning Cup, the United Nations have done a health check recently in regards to us and our position with our human rights and things like that. Now, where does this mandate in regards to the children put us in regards to that, do you think?
I think it puts us in a very precarious position because education is one of the most basic human rights. You understand, especially when it comes to children and young people. Yeah, and we have to take a very responsible line when it comes to that, and to understand that you may want to say the buck stops at the parents, but we have to understand that not everybody is growing up in a perfect home, and that schools and these other environments are sometimes the most safe spaces for these children.
So what would the DNA be asking those in authority to be able to do? Are you in agreement with the mandate? Not in agreement with the mandate? Are you looking at the mandate and thinking what is going to happen with those children who you've just mentioned may not be able to access or have the devices necessary to access the internet classrooms that are available? What are you asking for those empowered to do?
We are asking, as we've been asking from the beginning, to approach their approach this pandemic with much more compassion and empathy. We have seen a lot of high-handedness. We've seen a lot of this or else, and we've seen a lot of no, we're not going to do that. And then a few weeks later, we turn around and we do the very same thing that we say we're not going to do. But in a case like this, especially when you're dealing with children, you really have to be much more compassionate and ensure that if it is that this is what you are going to do, right? We want to know and to be very confident that the children who what I've mentioned earlier, who have very different circumstances and extenuating circumstances, etc., we want to be 100% confident that these children are safe and secure. Because not only has this pandemic caused a health crisis, it's caused a social economic crisis as well. Because all across the globe, family violence has increased, and this is not just me making an opinion. This is a fact that you can just go and find very easily. You can find it with UN Women, wherever it is, and not just domestic partner violence, family violence in total. So we tend to look at things from a very narrow point of view and not consider all of the external things. So we're asking you to consider these external things ensure that the children are safe, secured, and educated, because at the end of the day, it's the very least that we owe the most vulnerable population in this country.
And when we're looking, Chaneil, at children, it's now the numbers in the ages are going lower now. We're going down to 5, the ages of 5. So that's the primary school age. And for some parents felt that they were safe, or their children were safer, because it was only for the secondary school age children. I mean, how do you feel that this is impacted? I mean, some parents making a decision for themselves, but now fearing that children may be excluded in some instances from education, because as you said, with parents going back to school and going back to work, and maybe not having all access, and not wanting their child to be vaccinated, might be putting their children in a precarious situation in the home. What can we say to authorities, to schools, and even to those within authority within the ministries?
And it goes back to my earlier point of intersectionality as well, because we're looking at probably a subset of people who are now under a next layer of stress and pressure, and that does not augur well for your mental health. One of the things that we think that is absolutely important when you're dealing with issues like this is consultation with the people, the people who you are making these mandates and rules and policies and plans for. You need to be in proper consultation with the people, and that's one of the things that we know that has been sorely lacking when it comes to dealing with this pandemic in Antigua and Barbuda.
I mean, surely, so when it came to the mandate in regards to adults, there were no consultations. Did you really think this would have been any different when it came to the children?
Right. And so it goes back way from the beginning. There are just many, many, many things that could have been done differently. So we don't have the type of, sort of visceral reactions that we're having now. Because as we keep saying, these things and this lack of communication, this lack of consultation has caused such a great divide that it's going to be interesting to see how we bounce back after, all of this has passed, however long that may be.
Yeah, you're echoing. Even Sean Bird has echoed that in the news this morning in regards to the vaccination. They're also saying that in other countries like Austria, where they are announcing a lockdown for the unvaccinated. Some people may be saying that the DNA are trying to, lock down the unvaccinated, but how do you expect the country to develop and to grow and to open up if parents are being called back to work? Children therefore need to be back in school, as you say, educated, cared for and catered for, and COVID not going away. It doesn't seem to be going away any time too soon. What are the expectations from the DNA and maybe other opposition parties in regards to the mandating and when it comes to children and opening up the country?
I would say it's actually quite the opposite. We want everyone to have that choice, and our motto isn't prosperity for all, just for giggles. It's something that we definitely mean. And even way back when, I remember probably a few weeks ago, actually it would be a few months ago since we're in November now, we have put out a press release stating that the DNA stands for choice for everyone. Everyone should be given that choice and not unduly punished and restricted, etc., because of a choice that they choose to make. Yes, we do understand that we are in a global pandemic, but it is not just a health crisis. It is a crisis of many, many, many proportions, and we have to make decisions taking into consideration that these are actual people that you're making decisions for, actual living, breathing people with lives and responsibilities. So we have to ensure that everyone is taken care of in the best way possible.
I mean, you say, you say you want to have education and free access for all students, but in order for that to be able to happen, don't you think that the herd immunity and bringing everybody on board this is the way forward? That they've looked at the adults, and this is as far as they may be able to go with the adults. Now they're looking at the tertiary, the middle part. Now they're looking at the younger age group, and this is the way to go. Tasha says everything is vaccine. It's all about meeting the herd number. No one truly cares about mental and physical well-being of the youth. This is just out of control now. Children are not even high risk for this so-called COVID. So sad. Tasha, are you for the mandate or against the mandate when it comes to the children? Some will be against the mandate. Are you for the mandate for the children or against it for the children?
This is a question to me?
Yeah, the question to you, Chaneil. Are you for it or against it?
We are not in favor of a mandate for the children.
And what in its place? Are you in agreement with Tasha and others that feel that children are not that at risk or not? Because, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, children are just as much at risk as anyone else. That's walking, talking, breathing, inhaling and exhaling breath. Everyone is, it has a chance of getting it. And can we not afford to give the children the same immunity as they are doing the parents or adults as well?
Let me tell you, right? So let's do some math. Right? Let's do some math. We're trying to reach quote unquote herd immunity. And we're saying, okay, we've reached as maybe as far as we can go with the adults. So let's get those numbers up. Let's get, to the children, adolescents, etc. These children and adolescents are not responsible for themselves. They can't just go down to Villa and multi-purpose and say, hey, look me up. They can't do that. They are beholden to their parents. And if their parents are not vaccinating themselves, why do you think that they would say, you know what, let me go and do this? Why do you think there will be no resistance in that? It's just we have to be realistic and look at things as they really are, and sometimes not how we want them to be. Because we are mandating things, but we do not have the safety net in place for those children who will be adversely affected by this disease.
And when we talk
about, go a little further, right? Because one of the things that people like to latch on to right now is that, young boys have to be vaccinated to go to school. Why is it so different now? I can tell you, Alison, and this is not something that I'm particularly proud of, but it's when I had my first child that I received most of my shots. I went to primary and secondary school without receiving them. The difference is enforcement. The difference really is enforcement, because I caught chickenpox when I was in grade 2. Yeah, I caught chickenpox when I was in grade 2. So that goes to show my chickenpox that I was not pulled out of school because of that. I was never deprived in education because of that.
And so you're feeling that in this instance with the vaccine that there's a sense of prejudice being pushed onto this and the exclusion of some that it may affect adversely.
Right, because we've never had an issue where somebody has come on into the public and said, my child was pulled out of school because they don't have their vaccine.
Right.
You have one or two, of course. You will have those institutions that enforce this very strictly, and you will have those which are unfortunately or fortunately, or whatever you want, however you want to look at it, who don't enforce it because they do understand that at the end of the day, these children cannot make that decision on their own.
Very true, very true. And I'm also concerned and cognizant of the fact that parents of children, especially of the ages 5 now, up to secondary. I'd love to hear their feelings, their response to how the vaccine situation and their child or children is affecting them, and whether or not they're making decisions based on what they've done for themselves, or is the decision for themselves different to that of their children? Because some people are of the mind, it's not an issue in children if the teachers are vaccinated, if the schools, if we follow the protocols and what have you. Our children have been safe so far, and they may continue to be safe in the future, and may not be going down that road at the moment with vaccinating their children and maybe being so young. Do you think that might be some of the the fears that be concerning a lot of our parents here in Antigua. I'm interested to know. I want to know. I want to ask, because I haven't heard from a lot of parents saying yay or nay in the sense of a collection, a consensus, a survey or something.
Right, and thank you for making that point, because it goes back to what I've said about consultation and actually getting a feel of who people are, where they lack in information, and how you as an administration, as people in, as whoever it is, as a school, as whatever, can meet them where they are in terms of getting the information to them that they need to get, and dealing with any worries, fears, concerns, etc. Now, I actually have all of my children fall within that age range I was in.
Right.
All my children are 10 and under. So I'm a person whose children fall within that age range.
And I mean, I don't, you know what, I don't want to ask you, because we're right now in the public domain, but I can only imagine that there's a bit of a conflict in regards to, your children, because, you're trying to think, we do what I do for me, I do for my children, and vice versa. But a lot of parents are adverse to that. They're okay, I might have to go through it, but I don't want my children going through this.
Right. And that's where that level of consultation comes in. That's where that level of compassion comes in. Sometimes people just need to be listened to and to be answered in a non-condescending way.
Right.
To get that message across. Because sometimes your message is just fine, but it's the way in which you're bringing it across. And this is the argument I have with people all the time. You can't want to look at someone who has a differing opinion than you, call them dunce, and then want to be upset that they're upset with you.
No, I get that.
So that creates such a wall, such a barrier between you and that person, that anything you say is going to just bounce off of that wall, and they're not going to listen to you because they don't like the way in which they have been handled. And that is just human nature.
Right. And again, for some people, it's again leading by example. If there's something that you want me to do, let me see you do it. And then when I see you do it, then I will consider the ramifications. And maybe we do need to get more doctors on board talking about children as young as 5. I don't know. Will the parameters be widened even more and go down even further? Yes. People are saying, look, children had to be vaccinated. With the general measles, mumps, rubella, that kind of vaccination. Would this now COVID-19 vax will be going into babies and children? I don't know. Tasha says she's not for the mandate for anyone, especially children. We don't even know what the future effects this experimental drug will be having on the body. Children are still growing. Give them a chance to grow healthily and let adults be the guinea pigs, I think that is. Let them be the guinea pigs if they're going to force it on us. The children are the future. How do the DNA respond to somebody, a parent like that? Hello?
Hello?
Hi, did you get that?
You went in and out for me just
now. I'm sorry about that. I was asking, some parents are very concerned that they do not want to put an experimental drug into the body of their children. Tasha is of the opinion that children should be allowed to be children, because at the end of the day, they are the children of the future. How does the DNA, when it comes to the mandating for children, she doesn't agree with it for anyone, but giving the children a chance to grow, do we need more medical understanding of COVID-19 and its impact on younger bodies?
I definitely think so. That is one of the things that we've definitely considered when we took our position on the mandate for children, especially. That plus all the other psychosocial issues that a mandate will create, all of that needs to be taken into consideration, and to have some deeper level of consultation. If you see what you're doing is not working currently, then what you have to do is pivot and to see what will work and what will stick. We can't keep doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting different results.
The sign of madness. Sign of madness, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. Thank you so much for your call this morning and talking to us this morning. I mean, what can be done if they're mandating children? What possibly could you or any other opposition group do in order to maybe get this change, maybe to have a different, maybe more thought being put into the process of the ripple effect that it may cause? What do you DNA hope to achieve?
ideally, we would love to see some level of consultation. We'd love to see that the people are being listened to, and we would love to see some sort of consensus being made, not just a unilateral decision. I mean, we believe in democracy. It's literally in the name, and it's important that we listen to the people who we are elected to govern, and that we don't just rule with an iron fist as we tend to do in these parts, but ensure that we lead with compassion and empathy. Those are some of the basic tenets of the transformational leadership that we believe in the DNA.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your call this morning and letting us know how the DNA are feeling. I have to say, Jackie over in the States says when she was 9, she had to travel back and had to be vaccinated to travel to another country. Unfortunately, the doctor wasn't in when the mum took her, so they weren't really happy. Thanks for that, Jackie. Tyrone says even before they started working, let alone the step foot into school, they got vaccinated. Some people might be just saying that, the argument is a bit futile in regards to the children, because children have to be vaccinated with different vaccines prior to entering school. But are you saying that this is a different kind of vaccine? Chaneil?
I would say, as I said earlier, I would say it's a matter of enforcement. You can't use something as a precedent when the level of enforcement is completely and totally different. Because if we had an issue previously where, somebody wasn't vaccinated, they pulled out of school, and it's something that you can look to and say, okay, this has been happening for however long, then okay, that is fair enough. But if the level of enforcement, as I think one of your commenters, Jackie, said here, she was able to, do what she's doing. It may not have been quote unquote the right thing or the right way, but it's the precedent that has been set. So you can't use that as an example to say, oh well, this has always been happening. What we are facing now, we have never faced in our lifetime. This is an unprecedented event in many of our lifetimes. We have not ever gone through anything like this. We don't expect perfection, especially for something that is completely new to everyone and nobody could predict or expect. But some deeper level of communication, consultation, etc., needs to be done in order to try at least to meet people where they are and to ensure that people are as comfortable as possible. It's not just about your physical health, because you can be maybe the picture of physical health and your mental health is affected.
Well, let's see.
You can't have a prosperous society with people who don't feel like they are prospering.
I hear you. And you, again, we're all a part of society, and everyone wants to and needs to feel as though they are included in the processes and policies and processes that affect their daily and everyday lives. Thank you so much, Chaneil Imhoff, for joining us this morning on 97.1 FM.
Thank you so much, Alison. It's really always a pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much. And again, thank you. And again, please feel free. Hopefully we'll be able to give you a little bit more time next time to share and explain what exactly you guys on the next issue or the next topic that we have. You take it easy.
All right. Thank you, Alison.
Take care. Bye-bye.